think we made a decision early on that we had to use real locations, not, create sets. And the real locations had to be doing a lot of the work for us. So we spent a lot of time choosing the right places.
An old, dangling bachelor who was single at 50.
I think to shoot in real locations where the real fabric of the time is around you is fantastic.
Action.
It's very different to playing something in a studio. You really get a sense of where these people were, of the scale that they lived in, the reality of that.
There's obviously the room you're shooting in, but just around corridors, corners, bookshelves, paintings, gardens, vistas, ceilings, all those little things just does something to you imaginatively.
The wonderful thing about this film, featuring scenes filmed here at Chatsworth, is that this building was Georgiana's home. It belonged to her husband, the 5th Duke, and although a lot of their social life was spent in their house in London, they spent many, many parts of each year here at Chatsworth. Some of the family apartments we redecorated for her by the most fashionable French designers of that time, and some of that work still survives. The house always had a dual function. It was here as a family's home, and it was also here as a symbol of their wealth, their power, their authority in Derbyshire, their closeness to the king.
Chatsworth is one of the busiest sort of visitor attractions in England, and also had been stamped on pretty hard by Pride and Prejudice. So while it's very important that we went there, there's only certain parts of it that are feasible to use with the tens of thousands of visitors that go there every day.
Visitors don't actually see the rooms that she lived in because they're still the family rooms, but nonetheless they come across portraits of her. She's an important part of the story, so there's a real sense of her being not that far back in the past.
All right, roll sound.
London streets actually are a difficult thing to find, and Greenwich really is one of the only places that you really can manage to make it work. And I think what was great is that Michael did make it look like we haven't seen it before, because it has been used a lot.
We've all been there before, so we had to try and do something a bit different. It's one of 2 big exteriors in the film, and we really wanted to do that third world thing where, the world that she lives in is not the world of everybody, which is often the danger of a period film, that it's a film about the upper classes and we never really see the rest of what's going on. So we wanted to have the whole range of society in this big, busy street.
That was always a big thing for us, and a real challenge for the design department. Julia and I wanted to be able to look as kind of 360 as possible. To look up that way down the street and be able to turn the camera and look back that way. And obviously for the art department, that's the hardest thing possible, because you not only have to dress all of it that way, but you have to do it that way. But I think by doing that, you create a much more kind of living, breathing space. And if you've got places like Greenwich, where with a little bit of help you can do that, I felt that that's what we should go for.
I'm sure I'm not more extravagant than a woman of fashion ought to be.
May all the plagues of marriage be doubled on me if ever I try to be friends with you anymore!
So much, the better.
We're at the Old Vic in Bristol, which we were very fortunate because actually they were closing down to renovate the theatre. So we've really been able to take it over completely, and it really is an 18th century jewel of a theatre.
We started here fitting in a set that was essentially pre-built in London, and before we got here certain things had been pre-arranged, had been done, like some of the electrics were taken out, some of the speaker systems, lighting rigs and things like that. And those that we were unable to move, we came in and started to cover-up with pre-built cover-ups, and the seats were already removed when we got here, but we had to put our floor in and do various things like that. The problem that we usually have with most of the places that we film in is that there's certain directions that, we can't look in, or we know we don't have enough people to fill this theatre. We weren't allowed to remove some of the seats that aren't right, so we have to have people sitting on them so that we can't see them, or they need to be in the dark. There are issues like that where you just, you can't cover, or money hasn't allowed us to cover, or we don't have enough extras to cover. So, I'll have a plan about how it can work. Sometimes that doesn't work exactly with the plan that Saul has in his head, or his plan changes because of, various reasons. So really we just need to be clever and work with what we have and what's possible. The biggest part of this kind of a film is to actually find a series of places that fit together to make a world. Work with found objects in a way that some of the things you can change, some of the things that you can't change. So you need to modify your whole scheme based on certain elements that aren't changeable. And for this film, it was largely about candles.
I was very keen that we were going to use a lot of natural light, and that we would be using lots and lots of candles wherever possible, and trying to make it feel as real and natural as possible. It was purely about how to try and translate the story of the film into images.
Where can we light candles? How can we get candles up? How can we hang chandeliers like this in a space like this? Getting structural engineers to work out whether we can, build these simple rigs, which aren't really, in a sense, part of the design, but without them we can't actually see these spaces, we can't light them, we can't make them feel authentic. So there's a lot more logistical work that goes on, but in a way we get enormous production value for it.